Alright, they released the Illaoi reveal today for the champion. Her package and her support cards came out yesterday, so let's jump into them. This one seems a little bit interesting. It's something we haven't seen before. Let's watch the video, and then we can jump to the cards and kind of take from there. So super excited. Let's see what it's all about. So just right off the bat, Illaoi is a 4-mana 1/6 Overwhelm. In bilgewater, attack, spawn 1, then add your strongest tentacle power to mine this round. I've seen tentacles, or I deal 15 plus damage. Alright, let's play the video. We can talk later. Let's not interrupt this.
Life is too short for fear.
Fortune favors the bold.
Stand and be tested. Defend yourself.
So this is just explaining spawn. Spawn is summon a 1/1 tentacle, or if you have one already, give it +1/+1 for each spawn. So it's kind of just summoning something and then scaling it up. And then of course the tentacle has synergy with other cards, I'm presuming. This new one, Tentacle Smash, 4-mana slow, spawn 3, and then your strongest tentacle and an ally strike each other. Pretty interesting. So it is a target.
I have always felt very fortunate. Meet me.
Alright, and of course the strike helps Illaoi level up. And then Illaoi taking the strongest tentacle and adding to her stat. Oof.
Look and see the
Now why did it become a 4
Naga
attack?
Kaboros.
Oh, that might have been the path thing. Yeah, that was a path.
By my honor, you must die.
The sea's protection takes.
This card was
many
revealed
forms.
yesterday. It's a choose one, like a spawn 2 or spawn 5.
Move.
And this card allowing a free attack. Pretty interesting actually.
Strike quickly,
As it
strike
synergizes
deadly.
with Tentacle very well.
Stand strong beneath her gaze. This is it. Land or drown.
Wait, was it fully heal? What?
We will
No,
regain
it wasn't.
what
What?
we have lost.
What was a fully heal?
Naga
I will read the
Kaboros
text later.
smiles upon victory.
New relic. Yeah. Path champions, you got it.
Grudges are the anchors that drown small men.
Illaoi though, just really able to scale. This one was an interesting card. It's sort of the finisher, I suppose. Spawn 2 at round start, and then if your strongest tentacle has 12 plus power, that is very, very high.
Duck.
And then does something really insane. Essentially speaking.
Growth demands effort. Witness truth.
Because like, if you ever get it, it means your tentacle has 12 power, right? That's so interesting. Alright, so that was the video. Just initial thoughts, it's interesting. At spawn 1, then fully heal your strongest tentacle. Yeah, that's really interesting. Illaoi definitely has really cool synergy. Not only that, her stat line is just insanely beefy, having like 6 health of her own. But let's jump into all the cards. We can talk about them one by one. Let's move over. Alright. Cool. So Illaoi, so spawn again was just summoning a tentacle. And then if you already have a tentacle, you can scale its power by +1/+1, which is really interesting. Illaoi seems to be pretty decent. I know there's a lot of other synergy cards when we get there, but having a 6 baseline with Overwhelm definitely makes her very powerful, especially if she can scale very quickly. You saw in the video, just swing in for like a 5/6 Overwhelm on turn 4 is just really insane. When you also have it pairing that with a 4/4 tentacle by turn 4, if you can get that down, that's pretty good. When you spawn, increases value by 1. Okay, so Illaoi level up. After I've seen tentacles, or I deal 15 damage. How easy is that? So I've seen. So it is a scene, which does mean if you're attack on turn 4, earliest you're gonna level up is like turn 6 swing. If you're attack on evens, unless you have like a strike spell on turn 5 that can use like Tentacle Smash or something like that. So if you can play Illaoi on turn 4, swing, and then level up on turn 5 before the next swing, I mean, that's kind of crazy. Because then Illaoi also heals as well, technically, because she gains the stats like all stats, not just power, which is something really interesting, the difference between levels 1 and 2. Is that good? Is another question I will have to see. Definitely depends on the support, the ability to level up Illaoi on like your spite before your second swing. If you can't do that, then obviously you don't get the attack value out of Illaoi, but still just a beefy body, like a 2-7 with overwhelm that just scales. Whew, kind of crazy. Tentacle Smash, which is Illaoi's spell as well, definitely makes sense, very synergistic. It is 4 mana, so you can't curve Illaoi into Tentacle Smash on turn 4. If you could, that'd probably be absolutely insane. But that's not the case. So Tentacle Smash is interesting because it is highly synergistic with Illaoi. If you already have a Tentacle, that can be pretty good because what you're essentially doing is you're buffing a unit by +3/+3 and then striking a target of your choice. And then at the very worst, it's a 4 mana deal 3. That can't actually be interacted with. So like this can never fizzle. So this can never deal less than 3. Even if there's like a spawn on your side of the board and they vengeance it or something like that, it'll still like spawn a 3/3 and then strike the ally of your, or target of your choice. Which is interesting. Like a 4 mana slow deal 3 is definitely pretty bad. At, at this like cost, it should comparative wise, it would be like a 4 mana fast speed deal 3. But obviously, this has like really high upside as well as just really good synergy for Illaoi. I think this card being pretty core. And if you have a pretty easy way of generating spawns, I can see this card doing really well. Eye of Naga Kaboros. This one's really interesting. So it's a 5 mana spawn 2, draw 2 for burst. So very similar to all the other draw 2 cards, which cost around 4 mana, so to speak. And then just being able to spawn 2 for the price of 1. It's really awkward to use this as like a combat trick. If you're trying to like protect your tentacle, you can do that, which is cute, but having to allocate 5 whole mana for it. The draw 2 is like not bad, and maybe you can do the spawn 2 to open with like some burst attack. Overall, this card seems very flexible. It's just a little bit awkward if you want to try to like one-up your spawn with this card. That's probably less the case. It's more of a draw 2 than anything else, but having a spawn 2 attached onto it is at least, again, synergistic, and for the price of 1, I believe that's a relatively good value. So this card seems pretty good. Illaoi so far has like some pretty strong core of her package. I think these two cards, relatively speaking, are pretty high up there in terms of value, I would say, so to speak, just in terms of their mana and power level. It just depends again on how strong Spawn is overall, and maybe there's some more support cards we see, and maybe another champion that synergizes with Illaoi greatly. But overall, pretty cool. And then Naga Kaboros was the finisher card we saw in the video. Is this 8 mana card, fearsome 5/8 spawn 2 on round start. And then if your strongest tentacle has 12 plus power, create a game winning spell. Pretty much. Because when you cast this card, this starts a free attack with 4 Naga Kaboros tentacles, which all grow to the strongest tentacle and grant is keywords. So essentially you're spawning 4 13 12 12s that potentially have keywords. So this is just definitely a very, very powerful finisher if you can get this 12 plus power. So basically you have to like spawn 10. So you'd have to have a 10/10 tentacle on board at the very least. And then round start, this will spawn 2, creating it to a 12/12. And then it'll check if it has 12 plus power. So getting to 10/10 before you like win the game. Because like if you already have a 10/10 tentacle and you're attacking with Illaoi, like that's a 12/17 Illaoi crashing in with overwhelm. um, huh. This is probably a win more in most scenarios. Because if you already have a 10/10 tentacle, I think you're winning the game with an Illaoi. Unless you're just like dirtling around, your Illaoi got killed and you just have this 10/10 tentacle. But then if it doesn't have any keywords, it's still just like getting chump blocked. Although now your opponent needs to have 4 chump blockers, which is pretty big ask, so to speak. So this is definitely interesting. I could see this as maybe like a 1 over 2 of, but I still fear that this is more of a win more card than anything else, but we'll see. Berl Leader, this one was probably the one more interesting ones that got spoiled. This is a 3 mana, 3/2, play a 1 cost ally starts a free attack. Very notably, the Tentacle itself is a 1 mana 1/1. No matter how big it gets, it can always be played with a Berl Leader, right? So like you can play Illaoi on turn 4, get your attack in, and then Berl Leader sends in the Tentacle again next turn, and then that flips Illaoi. And then Illaoi level up on attack on the next turn. It's actually pretty powerful. And Illaoi's stat line, Azir is a 1 mana 3/5, and nobody can get rid of it. Illaoi can very certainly level up in most cases, which once she levels up, I think she becomes a pretty big truck. The cool thing is Illaoi can there at least the Illaoi can't block. It's really cool concept because she's a back row champion on defensive turns, but you always want to be attacking with her. So this general concept and design of the card I find really interesting because cards like Culling Strike, cards like Despair work really well on Illaoi when she's defending, which also just gives us extra sort of interactability. And then she always is, but beyond like having a back row sort of champion design, you're still sort of incentivized to attack with her because her level up synergy is probably, twice as fast if you attack with Illaoi. I really like this sort of hybrid design. It's really interesting, and I think it's a really cool sort of concept that Riot is pushing. So I'm very curious to see how this performs because I think this fusion is really cool. And I think Berl Leader, back to Berl Leader, what I think is even cooler about this card is it has this free attack concept is so interesting because in Bilgewater you have the scout unit, what's the card? The 2/4 scout unit that summons a 1 cost scout unit. And if you play this on that card, you essentially get a rally the same way that like Cataclysm plus a scout unit works in Demacia. And this is not even a skill, so this is guaranteed as long as you have a 1 cost ally that has scout on board, you're guaranteed a rally, which is really insane. Not only that, if you compare this card to like the Ruined Reckoner in Noxus, which is a 5 mana 4/3. Now this only works on a 1 cost ally, but I think if you've seen in Aphelios recently, the 1 cost allies can be really insane. Just a Hungry Owlcat that has like a elusive fish attached to it, or even like a buffed up Fizz. And Fizz and Berl Leader are already in the same regions, so like Fizz, Noxus, like Ruin Reckoner things are already a thing, and now they just introduce a card that just cuts that down by 2. That's really insane to any Fizz combo deck. So this card is really up there for me. This card is really, really powerful, and it can be used outside of Illaoi, which I think is the cool part of designs like this card. Watchful Idol is an interesting one. So this is a 1 mana 0/5 can't block, deal 2 to me and spawn 1. For 1 mana, deal 2. So it's Monkey Idol, right? So it spawns 3. For its life, it spawns 3. Spawn 1. The curve is a little bit awkward because the next spawn is at the very least turn 3 unless you use unanswered prayers for 2. But then it becomes a 3/3 for 3 mana, and if that dies, I think that slows you down a lot. Right now, the spawn archetype looks a little bit sparse, sort of carried by this Watchful Idol in the very early game. I mean, if you draw like 2 Watchful Idols, you play 1 on 1 and 1 on 2, you can start to scale a little bit, and then hopefully try to curve into like Lookout or Illaoi. It's a little bit slow to me because especially if you're playing against any sort of aggressive deck, this spawn is getting used. You're using the spawn to chump block, and then you have to restart all over again. And that seems like a sort of weird plan by itself because in order to level up Illaoi, you definitely need something out there. And in order for this card to synergize with, say, something like Tentacle Smash, ideally your Tentacle is not dying when it strikes something. So like you don't. There's just not so far. It doesn't seem to be enough early game spawn cards that can sort of help carry this the way that I feel like it needs to. Um, it's a little bit rough because Monkey Idol, like you're very happy sacking off powder monkeys, whereas the Tentacle you're trying to keep alive. And it's going to be very hard to keep it alive turns 1 through 3 because your Tentacle is going to be so small, and it's going to be hard to commit too much mana into it. So this is like kind of awkward for me. Brew Lookout is, I think, at the very least fine if you don't have a Tentacle. It's a 5 mana 4/3 plus a 3/3. Like, that's just a good stat line by itself. Now, at turn 5, that might be a little bit too slow, but at the very least, it reminds me of the Shadow Owl's Elusive card that summons a Mist Wraith. Very similar to that, just 2 bodies for 5. It's not the worst at all, which is okay. Sea Voice, spawn, attack, or attack, spawn 1, and then give your strongest Tentacle overwhelm this round. Huh. Okay. Oh, now that's attack. Ooh, interesting. Because, like, I really thought this card could synergize with, like, Naga Kaboros. And so you could, like, give the tentacles overwhelm, but that you can't really do that. You'd have to tap this first and then use that. And then I feel like that's just a little bit too weird. I don't get this card. This card doesn't look that good. Like, spawning 1, sure, that's cool and all, but then give it overwhelm. On turn 3, your spawn's, like, a 3/3, maybe a 4/4 at most. Giving it overwhelm isn't even that scary, and then you're having to commit this attack, which is a 3 mana 3/3. Granted, there aren't really many 3 mana 3/4s anymore because Vanguard Sergeant got nerfed. So it's like nothing's gonna like value block this unless someone can trade like a 3/2 up into this, and I guess that might feel bad. These cards all seem really weird. They all have the bilgewater problem where you're pretty forced to run cards to protect them. Um, and then that kind of locks you into like regions you want to use. I don't see this card being particularly powerful. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Answered Prayer, 2 mana, or spawn 2, or spend 5 mana, spawn 4 instead for slow. It just seems so fair. Like, the spawn card just seems really fair to me. Nothing seems broken about this card. 5 mana to spawn 4. So expensive. The good part is it is using spell mana to summon it, but most spells that summon units definitely get worse after they cost like more than 3 or 4. Just because with the exception of like Tribeam, which is probably like the most premium 5 mana spell you could ever get, this just seems a little slow. I just don't know there's enough support for this spawn sort of mechanic, which I think is actually pretty interesting. But everything just has such low spawn values, like spawn 1, spawn 1, this one spawn 3, Illaoi spawn 1. Like, your spawn's just gonna be so small. I think this whole, like, I really love Illaoi's design. I think Tentacle Smash is probably the strongest spawn card right now, 4 mana for spawn 3. Definitely the strongest just purely by the cost. But everything else just sort of underwhelming. Um, it's tough to say. I think we need to see the rest of the set because I think a lot of people are theorizing that the second Runeterra champion that is going to be revealed will synergize with Illaoi, and I hope that's the case because a lot of this seems really subpar for right now. You'd have to be playing like another region that could like really gain some value out of like protecting your spawns. Because right now this just seems a little bit too poor. Like, even if you rally to try to like get additional spawns, that's just so expensive. You're at most each card's like spawning 1 with Sea Voice, and then Illaoi does it again. But like rally with Illaoi, then at least like you're scaling Illaoi's power really highly. I wonder if there's some way to like abuse that, but right now this seems a little bit too weak for me. We have some few more cards I didn't cover. We got 6 more cards the other day, so I'll just read them now with Illaoi. Wharf Rat, 2 mana, 0/3 Overwhelm. I have +1 for each different round you've damaged the enemy Nexus. So this card's kind of interesting. When you play it early on, it's probably pretty subpar. If you play it on turn 2, maybe it's a 2/3 at best. Attacking, maybe it's a 3/3. which isn't that great. It does have overwhelm, so it can help, scale other things as well as getting the damage for the enemy nexus. Because I don't think there's a lot of build art things that actually have overwhelm, especially at an early cost. And if you play this late, maybe on like turn 5 or 6, it's gonna be like a 5/3 overwhelm for 2, which is similar to like lurker stats. So this card isn't that bad to me because it synergizes exactly with what it wants to be doing. It has overwhelm for itself, and it scales, which is really good, especially for a low mana spell. So Warfrat, I think, is relatively fair. Inspiring Light, slow, 2 mana, grant your allies +1/+1. Bannerman without the Bannerman. Or Bannerman without the man. I think this card sucks. They've been really pushing this, like, buff Demacia spells that I think are just absolutely mediocre. Like, we had the slow 1 mana grant 1/1, and then now we have 2 mana grant all allies 1/1. I just think this card's poo-poo. Maybe hit this off a Conchologist in some sort of Bandle City deck. But other than that, I think this is a terrible card. Now, Undergrowth, I think, is absolutely insane. 3 mana fast, toss 3, drain 2. Whew! Toss 3, drain 2. Oh man, even without the toss, 3 mana, drain 2. That's Mystic Shot, but a heal too. This card's crazy. And a toss. So synergistic for Deep. Exactly what Deep wants. Removal for Deep. Shadow House Deal 2. That's so bizarre. This card is crazy. I think this card is really good. If Deep needed anything to be good, I think this is close to the card that I was looking for. Sands of Time. Burst spell 6 mana. Give enemies -2 this round. Create an instant sentry in hand. So this card is at least this card is looking to be a Thrall support card, being able to generate an instant sentry. For those of you who are unaware, instant sentry is the card where it is a focus speed spell that pretty much is used to count down a landmark by 4 rounds. So essentially you're paying 6 mana to count down a landmark by 4 rounds. This give enemies -2 this round is, I think, negligible. So when we read this card, we have to think about, is one single sentry good? And ultimately, I think the answer is not really. The deck Thralls really aims to get all their Thralls tick down around the same time. So you want to have like 3-4 Thralls popping out in one turn, and generally speaking, you want to be open attacking into that turn. So having one instant sentry, maybe in some niche cases, allows you to catch up one frozen thrall in time with the others, but and maybe gives some stall, which is kind of interesting. Okay, the stall, maybe it's some stall in there as well because it's burst. You can like use this to just stall like a turn and then maybe catch up one of your thralls in line. But overall, like I think Thralls has a fair time already doing that itself, and I don't think it really needs this card. So I'm gonna say this card isn't that great. Discreet Invitation. Alright, 2 more cards. 2 mana burst, create a fleeting Shady Character. Oh man, this card is so weird. So Shady Character is the 4 mana pick a follower, transform me into an exact copy. And then Chempunk Shredder is deal 1 to all. And it's fleeting. But it reduces cost by 1, so it is spell mana, so this is like a 3 mana, this is a 4 mana. This card's weird. It's funny and it's bad. Consult the Heavens. Last card. 6 mana, burst, full heal an ally, grow its power equal to its health. What decks can actually utilize this? Like, obviously in TK Raka, being able to full heal an ally is cool at burst speed. It's a pretty decent combat trick, especially, like, it's like slightly better than Astral Protection. Like, I don't think you need anything more than Astral Protection. Now, granted, this is a full heal, where Astral is only a heal 4, so it could matter. But a deck like TK Raka doesn't really care about its units having like high power. So like that deck doesn't really need to run this. Maybe like, and like if you think about like a tentacle deck, like a spawn deck, which is able to protect this tentacle, the power is already equal to the health. So outside of like, I don't know, Braum, it's like kind of cute. Like, it has to be something with very low attack and very high health, like Battering Ram. I don't know, this has, like, high meme potential, but outside of that, I don't think that much. But yeah, so that's just gonna be the quick wrap-up with Illaoi and some other cards we got. Illaoi seems cool. I love the concept of her herself. Spawn seems a little bit low in value to me, but hopefully we see some more support cards coming in with the later reveals. So that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys are really excited for the expansion as I am. There's been so much stuff. Jin, which revealed, or the Jin's, the other stuff, the skill stuff that I revealed yesterday, and then allowing Naga Kaboros and all this cool stuff. It's really cool, so I'm super hyped up. Hope you guys are. I'll catch you guys with the next reveal video, and I hope it's gonna add so much more to the expansion. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out, guys.